Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's Trevor here. Now, if you're like me and believe that regardless of how much we've grown so far, there's always more to reach for, to tweak, or to stretch to, then you're going to really enjoy hearing from our guest today. With a wealth of counselling and cognitive behavioural therapy experience gained in the NHS during her 25-year career there, and also from a growing passion to help others overcome obstacles in their lives, Alison founded her business called Two Minds just over 10 years ago. She's a transformational mind coach, coaching leaders and other professionals. She's a speaker, a trainer, a facilitator, and the author of the book, A Path Travelled. Our guest today is Alison Blackler. Welcome, Alison.
Hello, thank you for having me on the show.
No, it's great to have you with us. So maybe to start off with, after a really good career in the NHS, what kind of happened 10 years or so ago that sort of motivated you or caused you to shift and start your own business?
So I think for me, it's as much a personal journey that led me to that change as much as it is a career change. I didn't start out particularly being a confident person. I found myself working in the NHS probably because my mum did, and I was encouraged to take on an admin role. I went to secretarial college and trained to be a medical secretary. And while that was a great job, and I was in my early 20s, met loads of fantastic people, and it was okay. But I knew that there was something missing. So I sort of started on this journey myself, personally, trying to understand my own limiting beliefs, my own thoughts about things. And I thought, well, I'll learn to do it as well. So I trained, as you said, as a counsellor originally and a cognitive behavioural therapist. And that set me off on this journey of finding out how to, I suppose, be a better version of yourself, how to understand yourself, how to let go of your limits, etc. In the time I worked in the NHS, I did work alongside GPs, working with patients. I did work in, specialised in drugs and alcohol for 5 years. I specialised in domestic violence for 5 years. I worked in safeguarding, public health. So all the time, fascinated by people and getting more and more interested in people, but still running parallel with my own development. And then someone introduced me to NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is another mindset. It's a program. It's reprogramming the mind. So I got introduced to it and learned a bit more about myself and developed my own expertise, I guess, or my own confidence. So it was at that point I started to think I believed in myself more. I thought, I can do this myself. My values, which I'm a big believer of working with people's values and understanding what your values were, my values within the NHS were being challenged. And that was just a personal thing. You know, we all know the NHS is an amazing thing, which we should be so grateful for. But I personally felt I was not being able to deliver what I wanted to do, which is I wanted to make a difference with people, and I wanted to be able to do that in a way that felt right. And I suppose I was getting more and more frustrated because I couldn't do what I felt was the right thing. I was often being told, you can't. So I suppose I developed my own skills, became more confident, and thought, do you know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave the NHS. Many people said to me, you're mad. You're leaving a permanent post and a pension and all these, very, very sensible things. Yeah. But actually, for me, it was the right time to go. I needed to just take that big, massive step and set up something that I believed in, but not disrespecting all the wonderful experience and the amazing journey that I'd already been on at that point. So in a long-winded way, that sort of hopefully answers that first question.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for the listeners that aren't UK based, so when we say NHS, that's the National Health Service, isn't it, here? So yeah, it's one of those careers for life, really, when you're in it. isn't it? If you do what you need to, there's ways you can kind of stay there for a long period of time.
Yeah, and I was very happy there for a long time. I was I was very fulfilled for a long time in a lot of the roles that I had, but it was my time to branch out.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think whether people call it destiny, fate, or something else, I think every now and again there's a point where circumstances kind of almost gang up on you in a positive way that kind of nudges, if not pushes you sort of into a different career path. So that's interesting. And the name Two Minds, what's behind that?
So Two Minds, because I work with people's conscious and subconscious mind. That's one connotation of it. Two Minds, because there's usually going to be at least two people involved in it. So I kind of had a little swing on a few different ways of thinking about two minds in that respect. And it's funny that you hear people say, "Oh, I'm in two minds about that," and it sort of has all sorts of plays on things.
Kind of double-mindedness, isn't it? Kind of,
yeah.
Going from one thing to another, you just don't do anything because you're not sure which is the right way to go. So, yeah. That
was the birth of Two Minds.
Yeah, that's a good title. I like that. So I know you're a strong believer in the fact that the vital ingredients for a fulfilled, happy life is kind of high self-confidence, high self-esteem, and self-worth. Tell us a little bit about if people may be struggling with that and they think, yeah, I really should have that, but I'm not sure I'm there yet. What would be some of the sort of behaviours or something they could put into place to help develop and grow that?
I think the first thing to say is that it's a constant journey. I don't think you ever get there. I think, as you said in your intro, we can always do more. The mind is an incredibly powerful machine. I always talk about it being this powerful piece of kit that we've got in our heads, and we don't really have an instruction manual for how to get the best out of ourselves. So for me, getting that instruction manual or getting some tips around how you can have that push yourself, because your mind will be screaming at you saying you can't do that, or people will laugh at you, or we compare ourselves. We're not favorable all the times to ourselves. So I believe that if we understand more about what is going on and why it's going on, then I believe we've got a chance to change it. So I think self-belief, self-worth, self-confidence, it's something that a lot of people will say they don't believe they're good enough. Even the high flyers often have that lurking unconscious belief that they're not actually as good as they think they are. And again, that is the trick of the mind. It will have you believing that if you allow it. So I think there's hundreds of techniques out there that you can help yourself by just allowing your mind to feel different and be different. But I think the biggest thing is to be kind to yourself on the journey, because it is trying to protect you. If it's saying don't do it, it's because it's trying to protect you. And I think that's something that we miss quite a lot. People think we need to be robust and like oak trees and really tough, and actually we're not really built to be like that, especially the way we've evolved. And so for me, it's about being much more flexible and being kind to yourself. And also, we're not all the same. So you might watch somebody doing something a certain way, but that might not be your way. And I think that's something else that really helps people build their own self-belief, rather than look at another and think, I need to be more like them.
Yeah. I think that's a big point you've hit there, that we're allowed to be ourselves, aren't we? Like, that's the point. We're supposed to be different. If we needed two people exactly the same, not including twins, but carbon copies, something's got to be wrong with the first one, and there's nothing wrong with us as individuals.
No.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think that if we just really let that sink in, of what you just said, of being kind to ourselves and just realizing that we're valuable for who we are because we're different. I think, it's so easy to get into the sort of comparison of whether, I'm in a similar business to a competitor and they're hitting their figures and I'm not, or whatever the kind of dynamics would be. It's so easy to slip into comparing yourself, isn't it? And if we're all different and we see the world different, why would we try and be like somebody else?
And I think that by doing that, in that mechanism of trying to be like somebody else, we lose sight of who we are. And I think that's what happens for a lot of people and businesses. is they are losing sight of their uniqueness and their talent, their gifts, their special. And I think the more we can be that, the happier we become.
Yeah.
Which then builds confidence more and more self-worth. And so it kind of comes around, it becomes a bit of a loop. I think that's really, it's critical for us all to do that. And I always think, as adults, we become terribly serious and we forget to reward ourselves. When you've got a little child there, you're constantly giving them feedback, you're constantly reassuring them that they're doing well and they're great and they're amazing and all these wonderful things that we say. And yet, become adults and it's like, I don't deserve to be proud of myself in this moment. And actually, from a brain perspective, yes, you do. Your mind is crying out for that kind of attention, because we go from all of it to nothing, potentially. If you have had that as a child, I think it is interesting that we expect ourselves to just keep going and do well, and not have any of this kind of almost warm stuff to go with it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Now, part of what you do is you help leaders, don't you? So within a kind of corporate scenario, you help leaders develop themselves and teams and things like that, as well as individual kind of one-to-one coaching, counselling side of things. What would you say from a leadership perspective are kind of the things that you've noticed that leaders struggle with more?
I think leaders. There's lots of things. Leaders often can feel very lonely, and I think they see themselves that they have the weight and the shoulders. They're holding the shoulders of the whole organisation. I'm working with somebody at the moment who's a chief exec of a huge hospital trust, and she, in her session, the realisation that actually she doesn't hold the full responsibility for all, I've forgotten what the number was, however many hundreds of thousands of staff that she had. And just that relief of actually, hang on a minute, I do need to empower my teams and I do need to have it, because it can feel very lonely and a lot of pressure at the top. Because yes, of course, it does stop with you as the leader, but actually that doesn't play well if that's how you perform, if you turn up believing that you hold all the answers and all the key. A, it's pressure, and B, you don't. You looking to your teams and your other managers, or even lower down, they have great ideas, and often they aren't given a voice for some brilliant ideas that should be aired at least. And also then the flip side of that is, I see then that people feel better, they feel more empowered, they feel like they're important, they're valued. So it kind of has a double edge there, because you're not only freeing yourself from the whole responsibility, you're also skilling up your teams and your managers below you to actually come up with some great ideas and run with them and have a go and see what happens and let them kind of explore and develop. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And the other thing, again, is we all have to be target driven to a point, but if you're too target driven and you not think about your people, and they're the ones that get the targets made, we've got to think about the people. We've got to think about how we can empower people to want to be coming to work and doing that extra mile. And that often comes down to leadership and management.
Yeah. It's a really key point that, there's, as you were saying, there's a couple of things that I think it's good to mention at this point. One, my own lesson of when I was leading teams, kind of, it's the realization that I don't have to be the smartest person with all the answers. I need to take responsibility for the team, and they're responsible for the results. If I get that right, you're right. It takes a lot of pressure off of what I'm doing, so I can look at kind of the helicopter view, the bigger picture, that then automatically gives me the opportunity to look after the team better. So the more you empower the individuals, so for business owners, if they've got staff, if they get other people helping out or associates, there's a balance to it all, but empower them as much as you can. Almost get to the point where you do yourself out of a job, that they're empowered so well that they could step in. That frees you up to then, maybe progress, move on. If you're the CEO, maybe you can't really go any further. But there's different things you can explore. You could start new projects. You unhinge yourself from the day-to-day stuff. You're the visionary more, aren't you? You're the one that's supposed to kind of see further in the distance, that then maps a path for people to follow and to lead people onto. And you can't do that if you're trying to look after people too closely and not give them the power to grow. Yeah, I think that's such a key point. So,
and I think something else on that, it's really useful for leaders to notice what is their driver for if they are doing that. Do they trust their staff? Do they not trust themselves? Often if they're micromanaging, there's a reason why they're micromanaging, but also it won't be empowering the leaders and the people that are below them.
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting to look at your own patterns around what you're doing in terms of leadership, so that you can then see what is behind whatever it is that you're doing. If it is rescuing people, if it's, oh, don't worry, I'll do it, that kind of attitude, or not looking for change. No, we don't do it like that. We do it like this around here. We're not up for something new. There's so much that can be done that businesses can really be savvy and switched on, but it won't all come from the top.
Yeah. I think the key point you mentioned is if you're a leader with healthy self-esteem, or a business owner in any form, you're more likely in a position then to give responsibility and empower others. Whereas if you feel that kind of your validation comes from you being the boss or the title owner, whatever it is, however you want to put it, there's something, the root cause is kind of thwarted a bit, that you're then trying to build something on it. I like the way you say it, because I can hear the coach in you coming out the subconscious and raising self-awareness. I love all of that. I've seen the value of coaching myself. That's kind of why I got into it. But I think it's one of those things that people, to a large extent, overlook. I think the word coach gets bandied around quite a bit and not always used as it should be, I don't think, in the right context, which then we have to kind of try and explain that. Actually, it's not quite like that. This is what we do. It's not all associated with sports, is it, for example? But tell us just a bit, for somebody, if they're looking for kind of help digging into, okay, why have I hit a ceiling? What is it about me that's, what am I struggling with, but I can't put it into words? How would they best kind of get to the bottom of that? So if they were going to kind of approach you for some coaching, what would be the sort of things that you would help them with?
So what I'm always looking for is the patterns, really, that people are running with. There can be patterns of their thinking, their patterns of their behaviour. I often hear what people aren't saying, and I can't explain what that's about, really, other than a vast amount of experience, my own journey, which I know how hard it is to make this life work sometimes. Let's be honest, it can be really hard sometimes, and I think for me it's just being able to help somebody in a safe place to understand what is holding them back, have a space where they can be really honest. I think it's really key for people to find a place that they can be really, really honest with themselves and not kid themselves, and then think about what will suit them to sort it out. And sometimes it can be a very, very old habit or pattern from the past. They're still running something that's almost from their childhood. But because of my background, if you like, because I've got coaching, but I've also got the counselling, not that I do a lot of counselling these days, but I can still, that's why I'm a mind coach, because I'm literally coaching the mind. So I'm looking for limiting stuff. I'm looking for habits and patterns in there. I'm looking for programs that are no longer serving. And I think it can be so freeing to have it pointed out in a respectful way. And I'm often looking for people to have a language to be able to challenge themselves or get things sorted out within a business. If there is conflict or there is a difficult person to manage, giving them a language that they can then go back and talk to that person with, because we all know that you can have a great business model, the best in the world actually, and then you roll the people in and it all starts to go a bit wrong because people don't do what you want them to do, and you're stuck with the way you want it done, and they will come in and challenge that because that's people for you. And I suppose that's my biggest fascination, is people. So for me to get to work with people, other people or a person one-to-one, or as you say, in teams or groups, then for me, there's nothing greater than just being able to get curious. Let's get curious as to what's going on and why you're not getting what you want from yourself or someone else, with no judgment, obviously. And then from there, people can start to get movement.
Yeah, that's good. A lot of the time, I think we fail to recognize that and think, I just need to work harder. If I put more hours in, surely I'll get a breakthrough in this area or whatever. And yeah, you can save yourself a whole lot of time. Give Alison a call, book a chat, see if it's the right thing. I find from experience, there's certain times when people are ready for coaching, and sometimes there's a journey to get to that point. But just suddenly being aware of the fact that I do need external input. There are things that, for some reason I'm going around in circles and I should be further on what I am, or just get another input from somebody that has run a business for 10 years or so and also been in the corporate side of it. So you have a very broad spectrum that you can kind of help facilitate the coaching process and help people discover things. So no, that's a key service that you offer. So well done for that. For people that maybe, because a lot of people associate coaching with goal setting, and whilst that can be an element to it, to some extent should be, for people that maybe struggle with goals, any tips as to helping people identify what their goals should be? What is it about them that would help them recognize goals?
I think goals have to be something that you love. I think it's got to be connected with your inner passion, your real, something that you really, even though you don't know how you're going to do it, I think your big goals need to be something that you really, really align to, and you are, not that you think that other people think you should be.
Yeah.
I think the other thing with goals is chunking them right down. I think that's the biggest job that all of us need to do with our dreams and goals, is to chunk things down so that you can achieve them in little ways, because you can all have a great big amazing goal, but it can feel very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So yes, you need to keep your eye on it, but also just to be able to chunk that down and look at each stage at what potentially could be holding you back. But I think running, like I've said before, and you mentioned it, you've got to believe that what you've got to offer is amazing, because if you don't, then how would somebody who's going to buy from you feel that it's good? So I think you have to sort of, and that's not easy. I think, let's be honest, it isn't easy to put yourself out there with something new sometimes, but that sort of courageous bit is the most important part of it, really, is just to believe that it's of worth, or ask lots of people, get feedback and ask people.
Yeah. I think having a good support network around you, whether they're sort of within the business or outside, or maybe mentors or other business owners, it's key. You need kind of an inner circle to just give you somewhere to bounce ideas off, or just get another perspective. So that's really good. Let's
even just to hear yourself.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, even just to hear yourself saying what's in your mind is a strategy in itself. It's because otherwise, as you said, you are on a loop, and you're on a roundabout, and you've got to put your foot down at some point to slow yourself down. So sometimes coaching or sharing it with somebody that you trust will give you that.
Yeah, you're right, because the whole thing, going back to the two minds that you mentioned, it's like the subconscious is running our life, isn't it? And if we're not aware, A, that it's doing that, or B, we can change it, we are almost running on autopilot, aren't we? Which, if that's working out for you, fine, don't change it. But chances are, because of your environment or experiences in the past or whatever, lots of different reasons that can kind of chuck the wrong things in the wrong fuel, if you like, in the engine, that can get us off path. But let's dig into your book. I'm curious about learning more about that, because it's about harnessing your inner power, isn't it? So it's all along these lines. Go on, just jump in.
Okay, so my book has been something that I've been writing for a long time. I launched it in April last year. So I'll tell you the story. So I think because I've been working with lots and lots of people for many years, but also myself. So as I've said, I've constantly, all the training I've ever done is always experiential. So you don't just put yourself up to learn the skills, you learn on your own stuff. So my own kind of development, if you like, is always run parallel with my career, my business. And many people over the years have said, I wish you'd write some of this stuff down. You've got a way of explaining it, and I just wish you would. So about 9 years ago, I started writing. And I just used to write chunks. I would see a client and think, oh yeah, I'll write about people pleasing, or oh yeah, I'll write about stuff. So I had these pages, and I mean hundreds of pages of just text, of just stuff. And I used to get it out. A whole year would go by, and then I'd get it back out, and I'd think, oh, come on, you've got to keep working on this. And then I'd get overwhelmed because there was just loads of pages and no chapters, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And then about 4 years ago, I got introduced to somebody who could help me with the structure to get into some sort of order. And that's when it started to really look like a book. And then I guess your own confidence starts to roll with that. I then started to share it eventually with a few people to say, look, what do you think? Can you just have a look? Do you think it's a runner? And one of the things that I've loved about the feedback I've had from it is that people say that it is very simple to understand and yet got lots in it. So I off and on, as I said, wrote this book because it was about my own journey, but my own understanding. So as I say, sometimes I was developing my own skills, and sometimes I was busy doing work. And then we went into lockdown, so I had no choice to finish it. And the book itself, so that's a little bit of the story about the book writing. And then the book itself is very much around, the first part of it is how your mind works. So why we do what we do, how it creates beliefs, how we manage emotion, how we liaise and communicate with others. It then looks at our childhood, but only in a very brief way. Again, just to pay attention to whether you might be affected by something because of what I'm interested in is whatever's gone on, how is it affecting you now? And that's a bit of my motto for all my work, really, is no matter what, let's think about how is it holding you back now? And then it looks at the common behaviours that you might see when we are fearing disappointment, or we are rescuing people, or we're very critical and criticising people, or whatever our behaviour is. I've looked at those. And then the back half of the book is what you can do self-help wise to empower yourself. So it's kind of the strapline is how to make sense of your life. So it's a bit of all sorts in there.
Sounds good. Yeah. So you've managed to encapsulate how we can make life make sense of our lives. That's yeah. Everyone should read that, I think.
I feel really, really want to help people.
Yeah.
Not everybody will want to and can work one-to-one with me. So it was a very positive step for my business to think, no, I really want to share what I've learned over the years and share it with people so that they can go, oh, that's why I do that. Oh, right. Okay, I get it now. And then hopefully from there, they can then really go for it and change something, because as I say, 80% of changing anything is being aware of it, I believe.
Yeah.
If you understand what's going on, you're a long way to being able to actually change it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the unconscious incompetence, isn't it? And how long we stay there before we move to becoming conscious of it. Yeah. No. That's good. That sounds really good. And you also mentioned you're developing a course kind of around this.
I have. Well, again, current climate, we've all had to think outside the box and think, right, okay, how can we offer? So I've done the same. I have finished, but it's not launched just yet, but I've finished an online program that's connected to the content of the book. So it is connected to the book, and it's a set of 12 sessions on video. They're about 10 minutes each, with downloadable exercises, again, to bring the book to life, so that for those that maybe don't want to read a book but do want to have more interaction. And then I will be having Facebook group, private Facebook group connected to it, so that people can come and share, and I will do lives. And so I never want to be too far removed from supporting people, but I ran a 12-week program last summer with 18, all happened to be ladies, on Zoom, and basically brought the book to life. They all had the book, and I brought it to life. Each week we would talk about another section of it, and it was so successful. I mean, I'm so proud of them all. They have absolutely, some of the changes they've made in their lives are phenomenal. I'm so thrilled for them all. It kind of made me think, maybe the book is the sort of book that actually does need, in some instances, a bit more input rather than it just be the words, even though for some people, that is all they need. So I think for me, I'm hoping it'll be quite nice for people to have a choice, or maybe start with the book and then go for the program later. But it'll be watch this space.
So it's going to be an online course, and then are you going to run another kind of interactive? It's almost like a mastermind sort of group, isn't it? That's how.
I think so. I think so. Yeah, to try and give people and again, people can choose what they feel they need. But I've taken the plunge because I have invested in it. I've had it done professionally, so I'm hoping that But like anyone else putting something new out there, you have to dig deep to your vulnerability and say, okay, off it goes, and I really hope that people can get the benefit from it, which is all that I'm interested in, really. Is it making a difference for them?
Definitely, yeah, and it sounds like you definitely have an impact on people's lives, be it in the business world, be it more of a one-to-one interactions that you have with the coaching as well. So it's good. Thank you for writing the book. I think we can't get too much of this sort of material out there. I think we can save so much time by learning from other people and learning what we don't know, and then almost jumping steps to get to where we need to be rather than just trying to figure it out ourselves. I mean, there's better things to do in life, isn't there? Talk to an expert. Kind of like when you were writing your book, you then got outside help to kind of formulate it. You knew what you wanted to do, but kind of somebody else came in and helped kind of put skin and bones on it as such. So it can be the same with us building a business, can't it? Like, we all need mentors in some form or another at different stages of life. So no, it's really good that you put the program together with the book as well. So it sounds really good. We're very near the end of our time together at the moment. It'd be really great if you come back when you've kind of developed the course and launched it and tell us how it's going and things like that. But maybe just to wrap this up today, what would you say would be maybe one of the biggest things that you found as a business owner that you've realized you had to change, things either you've struggled with? Was it kind of more the self-belief that you mentioned about putting something new out there and having to kind of dig down into the courage to do that? Or what would be sort of something you could leave with the listeners?
I think it is to notice what's going well and not focus too much on something that maybe hasn't gone so well. Because, there will be things that we do that don't work out so well, but we tend to then focus on that. So you might have had a call from somebody and somebody said no, and we tend to then, as humans, we will all focus on that. We'll think about that. We'll spend hours on that. But what about all the magic that actually did happen? We seem to forget, and the mind can quite easily fall into that negative thinking without us being. So I think it is about us celebrating all of your wins, your quick wins, your big wins, and actually using that as a foundation, and then learn from the things that didn't go so well. But I think yes, we all need to do that, but I think it's what's gone well, and spend time thinking about that at the end of each day, and especially in teams, focus on what's gone well. I hear too often where managers are focused on the thing that hasn't gone well too much still, in one-to-ones and things, and you just think, oh gosh, you're missing such a massive trick there. So I think we all need to do it. We need to not do our own heads in, so to speak, on that one thing that didn't quite go as you wanted to. What about all the rest? There will be loads of things that went well. Let's focus on those.
That's good advice, because it links to all the things we do well. High probability that they're all tied to our strengths, and if we need to to some extent be aware of our weaknesses, but if the more we focus on developing our strengths, that's really where we get into the zone of being most productive, isn't it? And most successful. Whether that's money or satisfaction, whatever you determine as success, but yeah, that's the best place to be, isn't it? Go on, sorry.
And I was just going to say, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be alone. You know, 9 times out of 10, someone else is feeling similar to you anyway. Or, you know, if you do think that you're concerned about what everyone else thinks, I can promise you that most people are thinking the same anyway. So they're not actually thinking about you at all. They are thinking about themselves and wondering what you're thinking about them. So we almost need to remove ourselves from that belief that, you know, other people will have a view on us. No, they'll probably be more bothered about themselves.
Just think about their own problems, aren't they? Yeah, I know what you mean. That's so liberating as well, isn't it? As we realise and are reminded of that. Yeah, so for everyone listening, if that's the only bit you capture from the conversations, that hopefully you'll capture more. But if that's the only bit, I think that in itself can really help brighten the day.
Definitely.
But yeah, I would encourage everyone listening, grab a copy of the book. So it's available Amazon or on your website, or
it's available Amazon. It's also available on hive.co.uk, which is where you can buy online books from a bookshop, but you buy it online, which I'm really positive about. I want it to be in bookshops, not just Amazon.
Yeah.
And I do have them myself, which I can post out, which obviously I can do a personalised signed copy if people want that too.
Sounds good. So website, what would be the best way for people to touch base with you and kind of follow you further? So
my website is www.2-minds.co.uk.
Okay.
Alison Blackler on LinkedIn, 2 Minds on Facebook, all the usual really.
Perfect.
I guess if you go to my website, you can get everything that you need from there.
Yeah, no, that's good. And details of the course and all that when it comes out will be on the website first, I guess.
They'll all be through the website.
Perfect. Okay, there'll be a link for anyone that click through to get to this point. Wherever you're listening to this, there'll be a link below that will take you through to Alison's website as well. So I would definitely encourage everybody listening, go to the website, have a look around, see what Alison offers. If you feel you're ready to have a coaching session or even a conversation about coaching, I guess that would be the first step. Would it be? You would chat to see?
Yeah, definitely. I always do a chemistry check. It's always really useful. And for me, it's very important that people feel they are working with the right person. So I don't, I'm not into hard sell and great big programs that people have to buy. I think it's got to be all about you and what you need.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's a perfect way to finish the episode. So thank you again for joining us and for sharing part of your story and being very vulnerable and real with us and very practical in how we can progress and grow in our lives and tackle the things that maybe we've not been aware of before today's episode. So yeah, thank you for your time on that, and please do come back, talk to us some more as well. I think that would be amazing. And thank you to everyone that's joined us today. I think definitely put something into practice. If it's being kind to yourself, put that as your new habit, that you say something positive about yourself every day, twice a day, however many times you need to. It's not egotistical in the wrong way. It's a positive thing that just reaffirms that you're valuable as a human. And I think we all need to be reminded of that from time to time. So yeah, definitely do that, but also put into practice all the other things that have been shared today from Alison's expertise. And until next episode, goodbye for now. Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yeukai.businessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.